All right, we're going to work through the root cause analysis development process. So the place to start is what we call the instruction manual. So this is how to write your root cause analysis. It's also what we call the rubric. You may not be familiar with the term, but get to know it. This is your friend. This is the best guide that you can find to help you write your full RCA project. So the RCA project is not just the 5 whys. That's important. And let's see what it is. In fact, is of 5 things: explain your challenge, explain the most important root cause you found. That's where RCA analysis comes in. Stop and think, explain what difference this will make, explain what you propose to do. Now, this is on page 1. And if you're short on time, you can actually just use page 1 and just work from that. But I highly recommend then going to the other 2 pages, which have more detailed questions, guidance. So when it says explain your immunization challenge, well, write about an immunization challenge in your area that you can do something about. So what that means is it's not just my challenge is vaccine hesitancy, is you need to be specific about your situation, describe, and this is the second sort of half of this first section, show you how your job and place affect this problem, describe your work setting, explain how your role and context influence the challenges you face. Now, when you go, if you decide to use the template, first thing is you can also start from scratch and just write in your own Word document. You can do it on your organization's letterhead, for example, because think about this: the work you're doing, you could actually present to your boss, to your team, and say, "Hey, guys, gals, I've done the root cause analysis. I've analyzed our challenge. I found the root cause that was different from what we've been trying to deal with, and here's some ideas about what we can do." So think about this. This is not just coursework or an academic exercise. This is something you can use to make a difference. But if you choose to use a template, well, you have a very simple one here. This in yellow, you don't want to touch. This is just sort of where to, this is just a recap, a summary of what you find here. All right. So you have the same thing in different forms in 3 places. If you're short on time, just focus on this. Pick one problem. This should be a problem you can help fix. Ensure the situation can be understood by others who do not know your area. And you'll find the same guidance here. Where you want to start writing, explain your challenge is here. So let me do that. And I'm going to say here, here's what I've written. In my role as a community health worker with the Ministry of Health in Warji LGA Bauchi State, I've identified a significant immunization challenge. Despite a high Penta 1 coverage of 90%, there's a substantial drop in Penta 3 coverage. So this is my challenge. Now, here's who it affects. And as a health worker with 14 years of experience, I have direct knowledge of this challenge. So you can go back now and let's look at some of the other tools we have available. So you have a checklist that you can use before you submit your work. So you've just seen, now this is an example. Do not try to copy this. You have, of course, to write your own immunization challenge, even if you are from Warji LGA Bauchi State, Nigeria. But what's important is to checklist whatever you end up writing. Say, have I clearly defined the immunization challenge? Have I explained why the challenge is important? Have I described how the challenge describes different stakeholders? Have I outlined my work role in immunization? Have I described my work setting? So here you can see that this person has done most, if not all, those things. You can also go to the, excuse me, to the ratings and description. So you can see here, your reviewers, when we come to peer review, your reviewers are going to be using this. Is it comprehensive? So the immunization challenge is comprehensively explained with clear, specific details. Its importance is thoroughly discussed, including detailed impacts on various stakeholders, patients, health workers, community leaders. The writer's work role and context are clearly described and effectively linked to the challenge. So I have observed, it says, I have observed this trend consistently across different settlements, highlighting the need for a systemic approach to address the problem. So you see, you need to write this up for your own situation, your own challenge. But this is how you use the different tools that we've looked at, the guidance, but it all starts with how to write your root cause analysis. So this is for the first part. Now, the second part is to explain the most important root cause that you found. that you can do something about. So this is where the 5 whys come in. So we can go to the guidance here for the 5 whys. And there's a single page document called How to Carry Out Root Cause Analysis. Make sure you don't just answer why 5 times. That's not what it's about. All right. What you want to do is you write down your main challenge. This is separate in a way. You can then summarize it in your project. This is not the entire project. Don't get confused by this. So you say, why does this challenge happen? So you say, well, the challenge is the dropout from 90% to 50% is pretty dramatic. So you write down this answer. Why does this challenge happen? Okay. And then once you have an answer there, you say, well, why does that happen? And you keep going on and on. And remember to ask why about each answer you give. It's not just giving 5 reasons for something. So again, we're going to go and yes, here is the work. Yes, I've looked at this, I've thought about it, and I'm going to now write it. So of course, I've already prepared answers for this specific root cause analysis project. It will take you more time to think through. Of course, do not copy. That is a violation of the honor code. We can detect copying, and we'll be ruthless in how we respond to it. So, but again, we trust you. We believe in you. So here's the 5 whys. Why do so many children not complete the Penta vaccine series? Parents don't bring them back. Why do parents not bring their children back? They may not understand the importance of completing the series. Why don't they understand? It may be a communication gap in the health workers, and parents may encounter issues like transportation constraints or competing responsibilities. So why do health workers not effectively communicate, and why do parents face these barriers? Well, so you have sort of 2 tracks, 2 branches that the person is exploring. And here you have a conclusion is actually 2 root causes: insufficient training and resources, and then the health system may not prioritize addressing parental barriers. So you see, it's a nice progression with each time I ask why about the preceding answer and I find something else. In fact, there's sort of 2 tracks here, and that's okay. You just need to explain it. And then this is really important. What supports these observations? Why should we believe you? Um, and so and then recognizing what is not complete. It may not capture all aspects of the issue. So be honest, be open about what you know and what you don't know. And so again, if we go back to the how to write your root cause analysis, let's go to the more detailed section. And here you want to make sure how, explain how you found the root cause that's different from what you first thought. Explain what information you have that supports your understanding of the challenge in this case is. If you found more than one important cause, explain why you chose to focus on this one. Explain where you got your information. So list all the sources. And you can see here, this is supported by my observations, discussions with colleagues, feedback from parents. And this is important. Of course, if you have sources of actual quantitative data, you've done a survey, or you're keeping track of caregiver behavior, you can, of course, should share that, but in a very limited time. You're not going to do research or do extensive analysis and so on. So be honest about what you're working with in order to draw conclusions from your root cause analysis. And then think about causes from people, families, community, and health system. And so you can see here how I have done that. Explain how your own experiences or beliefs might influence how you see the problem. So recognize you may have biases. You may not realize that a caregiver feels that you're being rude to them, for example. So think about things that you may not see, but that could matter. Explain if the root causes are different in different facilities, villages, or town. Okay, so that's the last part. And now let's look at the evaluation criteria. So an excellent root cause explanation would be a well-justified root cause identified through a detailed 5 whys process. Comprehensive supporting information is provided from a wide range of credible sources. So ask yourself, have I done this? If you haven't, go back and you can improve it. Multiple perspectives are thoroughly considered: individual, family, community, health system. The writer critically examines their own potential biases and clearly acknowledges information limitations. That differences in root causes across various facilities or areas are explored if relevant. So let's see what's in this section 2. The only thing missing may be that last one about the different facilities. I should say here, I have not observed significant differences between the facilities, for example. So that is for the second step, explaining the root cause that you found. Now, next you have, can you really fix this challenge? And what might happen if you try? So that's the stop and think step. Um, and so, yes, let's look at what's in the guidance here. So stop and think. So explain. These are just the examples. So I mean, there are several. There are like 5 documents, so you want to make sure you're looking at the right one. So think about whether you can fix the root cause. Consider if you have the power to make changes that will solve the main problem. Be honest about what you can and cannot do in your position. Explain how your ideas fit with the bigger goals of your health system or organization. And then list who else needs to do it. You're not going to fix things by yourself. So here you have this section. Can you really fix this challenge? And so let me go and do some quick writing. Okay. And here. So this again is what I've prepared. You need to prepare your own response. As a community health worker, I'm well positioned to contribute to addressing this root cause. Why? By enhancing my communication skills and advocating for improved training and resources for my colleagues. However, I recognize that fully resolving the issue will require a lot more from managers, policymakers, community leaders. Potential challenges include resistance to change from some stakeholders, resource constraints, the need to adapt strategies to different community contexts. Addressing this challenge aligns with the Ministry of Health's objective of improving immunization coverage, reducing preventable diseases, enhancing primary healthcare delivery. So by tackling the high dropout rate, we can contribute to the overall strengthening of the immunization program and the health system. Now, this sounds like a lot of words. It's not very tangible. So, if I were looking at the evaluation criteria for what difference will this make? Well, I don't know. It's kind of vague. Vague mention of potential improvements, but what are the specifics? No quantitative predictions, no actual numbers or consideration of short-term versus long-term impacts. So I think on this one, I might self-evaluate as a 1 or a 2. And again, be honest with yourself. If you're self-evaluating, you give yourself all 4s, you're not actually helping yourself. If I go to the checklist, have I assessed my ability to address the root cause within my role? Kind of, but I probably could do better. Have I identified other stakeholders? Yes, but it's kind of vague also, and so on. So you use these different tools to self-evaluate your work. And remember, now you're not just doing the 5 whys, you're actually digging deeper. Right now, we're at the stop and think stage. So, and list any possible negative effects that could happen if you try to fix the problem. So I don't think I have done that at all. What could go wrong? So next we look at, so there are obvious improvements for that section. So if I was taking this assignment to the finish line, I would definitely go back and work on that section, because I've been able to self-evaluate, self-review, and see that there are things that I can improve here. So now let's go look at what I propose to do, and this is the last section. So is how will things get better if you fix this challenge? Okay, there's actually 2. Yeah, sorry. Explain what difference this will make. Yeah, so that was the stop and think, sorry. So again, be careful when you're looking at the different criteria. You don't want to mix them up, because your reviewers hopefully won't do what I just did, which is confuse the different criteria. But so keep track, stay awake, yes, and pay attention and listen. Explain what difference this will make. So what good things will happen if you do your steps? So what you propose to do is actually after that. So this is a bit out of order. Explain how your actions will respect and work with local customs and beliefs. But you don't want to work on these sequentially. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You probably want to work on the actions first. So I'm actually going to go and look at what I could do for the action. And here, I'm going to paste here. I don't touch anything else. And so I would say do number 5 before number 4. So now, important, you cannot ask for additional funding or resources. That's too easy. If you say, well, I can change things, but only if I have more money, more funding, more resources, it's probably not going to happen that way. So you can always wait for resources, but you will be surprised by how much you can do with your own capacity. So summarize the first 3 specific actions. Ensure actions are within your authority. You can actually do these yourself. Can you imagine yourself doing them? Have you done things like that before? Or if it's something new, can you imagine the steps involved in doing them? And one question that I have for you, if you choose actions, things that you have done in the past. So, for example, in this case, dropout has happened, despite the ongoing activities. So if you say, well, I'm going to do more of what I usually do or the same thing, why would then dropout change? Because the existing set of activities give you this dropout in this particular case. Don't confuse this with your case. Your case may be very different. So why would it be different? So make sure when you think about, it's not just about trying something new, but you need to do something differently in order to get a different outcome if you want to actually fix the problem, the challenge that you're tackling. Think about how much time, and when you're actually going to do it. Explain what you need others to do. Describe how you're going to tell different groups about your plan and progress and how you're going to get their buy-in. Describe how you're going to monitor progress, measure success. Explain how you will adjust your plan. Explain how you checked your ideas with others. Explain how you'll use what you have, current resources. Explain how you improve things without asking for new materials or money. Because remember, in the exercise, you cannot ask for additional funding. If needed, show the different steps for different types of health centers and places. So let me go back here and what am I going to do? So I have the 3 actions: develop and implement a comprehensive training program. So question I would have as a reviewer looking at this work, I would say, well, this person is a community health worker. How are they going to develop and implement a comprehensive training program that does take resources, that takes training skills and experience? I think, I would like to see here, why and how the author believes they can actually do this. Second one, collaborate with health system managers and policymakers. Well, how often do they get to see the managers and policymakers? And is it to do anything other than receive instructions from the managers telling them to do this, do that? Because then it's going to be difficult, to change things, to say, well, mobile vaccination teams, extended clinic hours, whatever else you may be thinking of. So then third, you launch a targeted community outreach campaign. That's fine, but who's going to do it? Are you going to do it by yourself? So I would say this section, as the author, I would go back and look at the checklist, and again, work on 5 before you work on 4. Provide a timeline, outline your strategy. It sounds like, like these are all good ideas, but it's difficult to describe, to determine if they're actually feasible, realistic, if they could actually happen. Now, the part about collaboration, clear roles and responsibility, that's all very good, but again, the focus on community engagement, how are you going to do that? Sounds very optimistic, sounds very ambitious, but if I look at the reviewer criteria for what you propose to do, well, I'd say there's some unrealistic actions. So I would actually, this sounds good on paper, but when I think about it, I realize it's actually quite vague, unrealistic. It's too ambitious in a way, to the point where you can't really imagine one community health worker doing this, and they don't say how they are going to get all the others involved, what they're going to have to change to do differently, and so on. So this is actually one of the weaker sections. So you don't copy this, because again, this is a bad example. So number 4, explain what difference this will make. So now we actually go back from section 5 to section 4. And here you want to list the good changes. So it's not good enough to say, well, more children will be vaccinated. Obviously, that's the goal. But there are some other considerations here. The specific improvements, which vaccines coverage will improve, and how your actions are going to be respectful of people, how other positive changes might happen, what's going to be better if your immunization challenge is solved. Don't just say vaccination coverage will improve. That's a given if you're successful, but that's not good enough. What are the long-term and short-term benefits in health? Use specific numbers to say from coverage this to coverage that, and explain where these numbers come from, and describe how you will know if your actions are working over time. So I'm going to go get this section 4 that I've prepared, and we're going to look at it together. And some aspects of this are good, but some aspects of this may really require improvement. So by addressing the root causes of dropout, we expect to achieve the following improvements: increase Penta-3 coverage from 50 to 80%, reduce the number of children who don't complete the pentavalent series, increase parental understanding. So I would ask here, how will you measure that? Enhance trust, 50% increase in positive feedback from parents. This again seems very ambitious. It's good to have numbers as targets, but I don't really, it's hard to believe based on the current coverage levels. Okay. You don't have a way to check that when you're doing a review or when you're writing, think about, what makes it credible? Why should we believe you? It's not that we don't trust you. It's that this is public health. This is about evidence. This is about data. This is about, what being able to confirm things, not just taking, not just trying anything or doing something because this is what you have always done. Evidence from similar initiatives in other regions. What is this evidence? So this sounds vague, and this sounds like the author is just trying to, say something that sounds good. Achieving these improvements would significantly reduce the risk of vaccine-preventable diseases, contribute to healthier children, strengthen the resilience of the health system. I'm not sure how it would strengthen the resilience of the health system. It sounds like a good thing to say, but I don't feel like in this project so far that it actually shows you that. So again, you can go to the checklist, and here, explain what difference you'll make. So again, have you included all these aspects in the, in what you write? So here we have now finished all 5 sections. This has taken me 20 minutes to explain, but of course you are expected to put much more into it. There is one last criterion, which is write in a clear way so others can understand it. And this is not in the instruction manual, but this is in the checklist before you submit your work. So have you used simple words and short sentences throughout? Have you organized ideas in a logical order? Have you started with a professional greeting, ended the letter respectfully and appropriately? Now, we had considered asking you really to write this as a letter to your boss. And you may choose to do that because that will, if you want to actually make use of this, one possible use is you take this to your boss or to your team and you say, I have been thinking and I have been analyzing the root causes of this challenge. And I've come up with a root cause that is different from what I thought it was. It's actually something different than what we've been trying to do. And it means we can do these things differently and see what response you get. So, that this 6th sort of, on the checklist, we've kept that. But really your guide is what we call the rubric. So the instruction manual, how to write your root cause analysis. So again, this is far from a perfect project. It's got lots of things to improve, but it's got many positive aspects. Think about, now that you've listened to this, what are the positive aspects? If this was your project, and what would you improve? And last but not least, don't forget to give a title to your RCA. Change this line, do not leave it like this. So we'll know from looking at the projects how many people have listened to the end of this video, because those are the ones that will have a different title. Thank you for listening. I hope this has been useful, and I wish you every success in writing up your own root cause analysis project.